The emergency meeting had been going for 3 hours, and nobody wanted to say what everyone was thinking. David Reed sat at the head of the table in the colony hall, watching 20 faces stare back at him with fear and anger mixed together. Outside, the twin suns of Terravos were setting behind the mountains, painting the volcanic peaks in shades of red that looked too much like blood. "We have to give the sovereign what it wants," Robert Hayes said quietly. The mining director looked like he had aged 10 years in the past week. Other colonies tried to fight. They're all gone now. "You're talking about giving up a child," Helen Carter shot back. The doctor slammed her hand on the table. "A living, breathing child. How is that different from murder?" David closed his eyes. His daughter Lucy was in the next room, drawing pictures with the other children while their parents decided their fate. She had no idea that her father's mistake might cost her everything. 2 weeks ago, the mining team had accidentally collapsed part of the mountain during a routine excavation. They didn't know it was a sacred nesting ground until the sovereign appeared in the sky, wings blocking out the suns. The creature was massive, covered in crystalline scales that reflected light like a living rainbow. It spoke in a voice that shook the ground. "You have damaged what is sacred. Tribute must be paid." Other species in the sector had warned them about the sovereigns when the colony first arrived. Ancient beings that protected certain places with absolute authority. Most colonies left them alone. New Haven had tried to be careful, but accidents happened when you were drilling through mountains looking for rare minerals. "What kind of tribute did it ask for?" Someone called from the back of the room. "It just said tribute," Robert replied. "But we looked at the records. Every other species that offended a sovereign sent their youngest. It's tradition across 12 different cultures." "Tradition built on fear," Helen said. "We're humans. We don't sacrifice our children to monsters." "We're humans dying on a frontier world with no backup and no way home," another council member argued. 5,000 people live here. If we refuse, the sovereign destroys us all. That's not a guess. That's history." David opened his eyes and looked at the faces around the table. They were good people, most of them. Farmers, engineers, teachers who had come to Terravos hopping to build something better than what they left behind. Now they were trapped between impossible choices. "I was the mining director when this happened," David said slowly. Everyone turned to look at him. "The decision was mine. The responsibility is mine." He took a deep breath. "Lucy is my daughter. I'll take her to the mountain myself." The room erupted in arguments. Helen stood up so fast her chair fell over. "David, no, you can't. There has to be another way." "There isn't," David said, and his voice was steady even though his heart was breaking. "We've been over every option. We can't fight it. We can't run. We can't negotiate with something that won't talk to us. At least this way, only one person pays the price." "She's 7 years old," Helen whispered. "I know," David stood up. "We vote now. Everyone in favor of sending tribute to the sovereign to save the colony." Hands went up slowly, reluctantly. Some people were crying, others couldn't look at him. When the count was done, it was 17-3. The decision was made. "I want to go with you," Helen said. "To the mountain. Someone else should witness this." David nodded. "Tomorrow at dawn, we leave from the main gate." The meeting ended in silence. People filed out without looking at each other. David sat alone at the table for a long time before he finally walked to the children's room. Lucy was sitting on the floor, surrounded by papers covered in bright drawings. She looked up when he entered and smiled. That smile hurt worse than anything. "Daddy, look what I made." She held up a picture of their family standing in front of their small house. "It's us being happy." David knelt down beside her. "Lucy, honey, I need to talk to you about something important." "Okay," she said, already reaching for another crayon. "Tomorrow we're going on a trip. Just you and me. We're going to visit someone very special who lives in the mountains." Lucy's eyes went wide with excitement. "Really? Is it an adventure?" Yes, David said, because he couldn't bring himself to tell her the truth. It's an adventure. Can I bring my drawings and my stuffed rabbit? Bring whatever you want, sweetheart. That night, while Lucy slept peacefully in her bed, David sat in the kitchen and cried silently. His wife Rachel held him, both of them knowing that tomorrow might be the last time they ever saw their daughter alive. In the morning, Lucy woke up early and packed her little backpack with care. Drawings, crayons, her stuffed rabbit, and a handful of snacks she smuggled from the kitchen. She put on her favorite jacket and boots, ready for whatever adventure waited in the mountains. She had no idea she was walking toward a dragon that had waited 800 years for someone brave enough to see past the fear. Dawn came too quickly. Lucy sat on her father's shoulders as they walked through the colony gates, waving at people like she was going to a festival. Most colonists had gathered to watch them leave, standing in silent rows with their heads bowed. Some of the children cried, though they didn't understand why. Everyone looks so sad, Lucy said, bouncing slightly. Are they worried about us? They're just tired, honey, David lied. His legs felt like lead with each step, but he kept walking. Helen walked beside them carrying supplies, her medical bag slung over one shoulder. Robert had insisted on coming too, bringing scanning equipment to record whatever happened. Someone needs to document this, he had said, for the people who come after us. The path to the mountains wound through strange alien forests where the trees grew in spirals and the grass hummed with vibration. Lucy pointed at everything, asking questions faster than anyone could answer them. Why is that plant glowing? Do those birds have 4 wings? Daddy, look at that bug, it's purple. Despite everything, David found himself answering. It was easier than thinking about where they were going. Helen pulled out her tablet and started recording the plants Lucy pointed at, and discovered 3 species that weren't in any database. Your daughter has a good eye, Helen said quietly. She gets it from her mother, David replied. Rachel always said Lucy saw things other people missed. They stopped for lunch near a stream that ran warm from underground volcanic vents. Lucy made friends with a small creature that looked like a cross between a lizard and a rabbit. She fed it pieces of her sandwich and drew it in her notebook. What are you going to name it? Helen asked. Gerald, Lucy said seriously. He looks like a Gerald. Even Robert smiled at that. As they climbed higher, the air grew warmer. Volcanic rock replaced soil, and steam vents created curtains of mist across their path. Helen checked her scanner and frowned. Radiation levels are elevated but not dangerous. Temperature is 15 degrees higher than it should be. This whole area is geothermically active. The Sovereign's territory, Robert said. We're close. David felt his heart hammering. He wanted to turn around, grab Lucy, and run as far as possible, but there was nowhere to run. The colony had no ships, no way off planet. They were trapped here, and this was their only choice. Lucy didn't notice his fear. She was too busy examining the rock formations, comparing them to pictures in a geology book Helen had brought. These are igneous rocks, Lucy announced proudly. That means they came from volcanoes. Very good, Helen said, her voice tight. By late afternoon, they reached the base of the mountain. A massive stone platform stretched before them, carved with symbols from languages nobody could read. In the center stood offerings left by other species over the years. Small toys, pieces of jewelry, bundles of cloth faded by time and weather. What is all this stuff? Lucy asked, climbing down from her father's shoulders. Gifts, David said, which was technically true. Lucy walked around the platform, examining everything with curiosity. She picked up a small carved figure that might have been a toy once, though erosion had worn away most of the details. Some kid left this here, she said. I wonder if they came back for it. Nobody answered. The cave entrance loomed before them, carved into the mountain face. It was enormous, easily 50 meters high, with more of those strange symbols carved around the edges. Heat poured from the opening in visible waves. "This is as far as we go," Robert said, setting down his equipment. He wouldn't meet David's eyes. David knelt in front of Lucy. He wanted to memorize everything about her face, the way her hair stuck up on one side, the gap in her teeth from the one she lost last month, the freckles across her nose that looked like constellations. "Lucy, I need you to listen very carefully," he began. "I know, Daddy," she interrupted. "I'm supposed to go in there and meet the special person, right?" "Yes." "Will you come get me later?" David's throat closed up. He couldn't speak. Helen knelt beside him and took Lucy's hands gently. "Sweetheart, the being in there is very old and very powerful. It might want you to stay for a while." "Like a sleepover?" Lucy asked. "Something like that," Helen said, tears running down her face. Lucy thought about this. Then she opened her backpack and pulled out her drawings. She sorted through them carefully and selected several. "I'll show these to the special person," she decided. "Everyone likes drawings." The ground trembled. A sound like grinding stone echoed from deep within the mountain. Heat intensified until sweat poured down their faces. David pulled Lucy into a hug, holding her so tight she squeaked. "I love you more than anything in the world," he whispered. "Don't ever forget that." "I love you too, Daddy," Lucy said, hugging him back. "Don't be sad. I'll tell you all about my adventure when I see you again." She pulled away and walked toward the cave entrance, her little backpack bouncing with each step. At the edge of the platform, she turned and waved. "Bye, I'll bring you back a souvenir." Then she walked into the darkness. A shadow moved inside the cave, massive and ancient. David saw crystalline scales catch the light, saw enormous eyes open and focus on the small human child standing below them. Lucy looked up at the sovereign and held up her drawings. "Hello," her voice echoed through the cave. "I brought pictures to show you." The ground shook again. The sovereign moved forward into the light, and David saw it clearly for the first time. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once, a being of pure power and age beyond human comprehension. And then it spoke. The voice came not through sound but directly into their minds, ancient and tired and infinitely sad. "Another child. Why do they always send children?" David staggered backward, nearly falling off the platform. Helen grabbed his arm to steady him. Robert's scanner clattered to the ground, forgotten. Lucy tilted her head, apparently unbothered by telepathic communication. "Because you asked for tribute. That's what Daddy said." The sovereign emerged fully from the cave, and they could see it was even larger than they thought. Its body stretched back into shadows, crystalline scales shifting through colors as it moved. Its head alone was the size of their house back in the colony. "I asked for tribute," the sovereign said, and now its voice carried weight that pressed against their chests. "Not sacrifice, not children, never children." "But the records," Robert stammered, finding his voice. "Every species that offended a sovereign sent their youngest. It's tradition across dozens of worlds." "Tradition," the sovereign repeated, and something like bitter laughter rippled through their minds. "Built on 800 years of misunderstanding and fear." Lucy walked closer to the massive being, still holding her drawings. "You mean you don't want me to stay here?" "Come, small one," the sovereign said gently. "Let me show you what tribute truly means." The dragon lowered its enormous head until one eye, the size of Lucy's entire body, was level with her face. They stared at each other for a long moment. "You are not afraid," the sovereign observed. "Should I be?" Lucy asked. "Most are." "You seem nice," Lucy said. Then she held up her drawings. "I made these. This one is my family. This one is our house. This one is Gerald. He's my new friend. He's a lizard rabbit." The sovereign examined each drawing carefully. "You have talent, and you see the world with clear eyes." "Thank you," Lucy said politely. David found his courage and stepped forward. Please, I don't understand. If you don't want children, why did the other species send them? Why did you accept them? The sovereign's gaze shifted to the adults, and they felt the weight of centuries in that look. 800 years ago, I demanded tribute after a species destroyed a nesting ground, much as yours did. I wanted acknowledgement, respect, a promise to protect this world's sacred places. The first species understood. They sent their finest art, their music, their knowledge. I accepted and shared wisdom in return. The dragon moved slightly and the ground trembled. But the second species misunderstood. They believed I wanted sacrifice. They sent a child, their youngest daughter, bound and weeping. They pushed her toward me and fled. What did you do? Helen whispered. What could I do? The sovereign replied. If I sent her back, they would kill her for failing. If I killed her, I would be the monster they believed me to be. So I took her inside the mountain, gave her shelter and care, taught her what I knew. She lived a full life here, peaceful and safe. But the tradition continued, Robert said, understanding dawning. Yes, word spread that the sovereign had accepted a child tribute. Other species, when they offended me, sent children as well. Some I tried to return. They were executed for failing their duty, so I stopped trying. I took them in, raised them, protected them. What else could I do? Lucy tugged on the sovereign's scales, which were warm to the touch. Where are they now, the other kids? Inside, the sovereign said. Come all of you, it is time you understood. The dragon turned and walked back into the cave. Lucy followed without hesitation. David, Helen, and Robert exchanged looks of shock and confusion, then hurried after them. The cave opened into something impossible. Instead of rough stone, they found themselves in a massive underground chamber lit by bioluminescent plants and crystals that grew from the walls. Water flowed through channels carved into the floor, creating a network of streams and pools. And everywhere, there were gardens. But that wasn't the most shocking thing. People moved through the gardens. Beings from different species, different worlds, living and working together. Some tended plants. Others read from ancient books in a library built into the rock face. Children played near one of the pools, their laughter echoing off the stone. This is impossible, Helen breathed. An older woman approached them, human, her hair gray but her eyes sharp. She wore simple clothes made from woven plant fiber and walked with the confidence of someone completely at home. New arrivals? She asked the sovereign. Yes, Anna, though not as expected. The woman looked at David and the others, then down at Lucy. A sad smile crossed her face. Let me guess, they sent the child thinking you'd eat her. I would never, Lucy said indignantly. The sovereign is nice. Anna laughed. Out of the mouths of children, she looked at David. I'm Anna Park. I was brought here 40 years ago when I was 6, from a colony on the third moon. David's mind reeled. But that colony was destroyed. Everyone died. Everyone assumed I died, Anna corrected. Actually, I've been living here, learning, growing. I tried to go back once about 20 years ago. The colony had moved on. New people, new generation. They didn't remember me, and when I tried to explain, they called me crazy. She shrugged. So I came back. This is my home now. Helen walked forward slowly, looking at the impossible underground city. How many? 47, the sovereign answered. From 12 different species spanning 800 years. Some have passed from old age. Some chose to return to their people eventually as ambassadors. Most stayed. This became their sanctuary. Lucy was already exploring, making friends with a small blue child from a species none of them recognized. Why didn't you tell anyone? Robert asked. Why let the misunderstanding continue? I tried, the sovereign said. No one listened. Fear is easier than truth. You believe what you choose to believe. David sank to his knees. We were going to sacrifice our daughter. We thought we had no choice. And now you know better, the sovereign said. The question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Anna led them deeper into the sanctuary while Lucy held hands with the blue child, already chattering away despite not speaking the same language. The underground city was vast, with tunnels branching off in every direction. Rooms carved into the rock served as homes, workshops, and study spaces. "This is the library," Anna said, gesturing to a chamber filled with books, data crystals, and storage devices from technologies both ancient and modern. 800 years of accumulated knowledge from 12 civilizations. Some of these species are extinct now. Their wisdom exists only here. Helen walked between the shelves with reverence, running her fingers over spines marked in languages she couldn't read. "This is priceless. Medical texts, engineering manuals, agricultural guides." She pulled out a data crystal and examined it. "This could revolutionize everything we know." "That's the real tribute the sovereign wanted," Anna explained. "Knowledge exchange, understanding, respect for the world and its sacred places." She smiled sadly. But everyone was too afraid to ask what tribute actually meant. Robert was recording everything with his scanner, his hands shaking. "Our colony is dying slowly. We barely grow enough food. Our medical supplies are running low. If we had access to this knowledge." "You would thrive," the sovereign said, entering the library. Its massive form somehow fit through the doorways, though how remained a mystery. "That was always my offer. Partnership, not punishment. But your species, like so many others, assumed the worst." David stood before the dragon, finally finding his voice. "What do you want from us now? We came here ready to give you our daughter. What's the actual price for this knowledge?" The sovereign regarded him with those ancient eyes. "The same thing I wanted 800 years ago. Respect. Acknowledgement. A promise to protect this world's sacred places and restore what you damaged. In exchange, you gain access to everything here." "That's all?" Helen asked, disbelieving. "That's everything," the sovereign corrected. "Respect is not a small thing. It requires you to change how you see the world, to stop taking without asking, to recognize that you are guests here, not masters." Lucy climbed onto a reading table, her feet swinging. "That seems fair." "What about me?" David asked. "Lucy, can she come home?" The sovereign turned to the child. "That is her choice. She may return with you now, and your colony will have limited access to our library. Or she may stay for a time as a student, learning what we can teach, and your colony gains full access to all knowledge here." "That's not fair," David said immediately. "You're making her choose between her family and helping everyone." "No," Lucy interrupted. "The sovereign is giving me a choice. That's different." She looked around the library at Anna and the other people moving through the sanctuary. "How long would I have to stay?" "As long as you wish to learn," the sovereign replied. "A month, a year, a decade. You may leave whenever you choose and visit home whenever you like. You are a student here, not a prisoner." Lucy looked at her father. "Can I stay for a little while, like school?" David felt his heart breaking again, but differently this time. "You want to?" "There's so much to learn," Lucy said, her eyes bright. "And everyone here is nice. And I can visit you, right? So it's not forever." "It's your choice, honey," David said, even though saying it hurt. "I won't force you either way." Lucy thought for a moment, then nodded. "I want to stay, but I want to come home every month to see you and Mom." The sovereign bowed its great head. "This is acceptable. You will be the first official student ambassador between our peoples." Helen stepped forward suddenly. "I want to stay too, as a medical representative. I can study your health knowledge and send reports back to the colony." She looked at David. "Someone needs to be here to learn, to help bridge the gap. Let me do this." Anna clasped Helen's hands. "You're welcome here. I'll teach you everything I've learned." Robert was still recording, still processing. "We need to tell the colony. They're expecting us to come back without Lucy, expecting her to be dead. They need to know the truth." "Go," the sovereign said. "Speak truth. Show them what you've recorded, but know this. The dragon's voice grew harder. Your species has much to learn about mercy, about looking beyond fear. If you cannot change, if you cannot respect this world and its guardians, then the knowledge stays here and you remain as you are. David understood. This was a test, not just of the colony's willingness to change, but of humanity's ability to grow beyond old fears and assumptions. Lucy hugged her father tightly. "Tell Mom I love her. Tell her I'm at the best school in the universe." "I will," David promised. "I'll come back next month to visit, I promise." "Bring Mom too," Lucy said. "She'll love the gardens." Anna showed them back to the entrance, explaining the path and what to expect. At the cave mouth, David turned back one last time. Lucy was already deep in conversation with Anna about the library, asking 100 questions. "She'll be safe," Anna promised, "safer than anywhere else. The sovereign protects what it loves." David nodded, unable to speak. Then he, Helen having decided to stay, and Robert walked back down the mountain trail. The journey back to the colony took hours. The twin suns set behind them and stars emerged overhead, cold and distant. Robert reviewed his recordings over and over, making sure everything was clear. "They won't believe us," he said finally. "They have to," David replied. "We have proof, we have recordings, we have the truth." "Truth doesn't always matter to people who have made up their minds," Robert said quietly. David thought about the colony council, about the fear in their eyes when they voted to send Lucy away. He thought about how easy it had been to believe the worst, to assume the sovereign was a monster. "Then we make them listen," David said. "We make them see, because Lucy is counting on us and I won't let her down again." They reached the colony gates just before midnight. Guards waited there, surprised to see them return. Word spread quickly, and within an hour the council was assembled again. David stood before them and told the truth. He showed them Robert's recordings, showed them the sanctuary, the library, the people living in peace. He explained what tribute really meant. Some believed immediately, others were skeptical, and a few became angry. Walter Cross, the security chief, stood up with fury in his eyes. "This is a trick, mind control. The sovereign is manipulating you." "You're wrong," David said. "Prove it," Walter demanded. "Bring Lucy back. Bring her home where she belongs." And that's when David realized the real battle was just beginning. 2 months passed, and the colony remained divided. David presented his findings weekly, sharing knowledge from the sanctuary that Helen sent back in detailed reports. New farming techniques increased crop yields by 30%. Medical treatments that seemed impossible worked perfectly, but Walter Cross and his supporters refused to believe. "It's all lies," Walter declared at yet another council meeting. "The sovereign is feeding them false information to make us dependent. Then it strikes." Meanwhile, Lucy thrived. Her weekly video messages home showed a child transformed by learning. She spoke phrases in 3 alien languages, understood complex mathematics, and could identify plant species by their genetic markers. Her drawings grew more sophisticated, showing alien ecosystems in stunning detail. Rachel watched every video dozens of times, torn between pride in her daughter's growth and grief at missing it firsthand. "She's so happy," she whispered to David one night. "But I want her home." "Next week," David promised. "We visit next week." In the sanctuary, Lucy had become friends with everyone. The blue child's name was Finn, and they were inseparable. Anna taught her xenobiology while Helen studied medical texts from 6 different civilizations. The sovereign itself sometimes gave lessons, sharing knowledge accumulated over millennia. "Why do you protect this world?" Lucy asked one day while helping in the gardens. "Because someone must," the sovereign replied. "This planet is special. Life here is sacred. When I was young, my people swore to guard such places against those who would destroy them thoughtlessly." "Are there others like you?" 11 others on different worlds. We are the last guardians of an ancient covenant. Lucy processed this. That sounds lonely. It is, the sovereign admitted, but not as lonely since you came, small teacher. That evening, Walter Cross made his move. He gathered 15 volunteers, people who believed the colony was in danger. They armed themselves with mining equipment repurposed as weapons and headed for the mountain under cover of darkness. "We're saving that girl," Walter told his group, "and we're going to show that creature it can't manipulate humans." They reached the sanctuary near dawn and stormed through the cave entrance, shouting and brandishing their weapons. Sanctuary residents screamed and scattered. Children were rushed to safety. Anna stood her ground, blocking the path to the library. "You need to leave," she said firmly. "Now." "We're taking Lucy home," Walter said, pushing past her. Lucy heard the commotion and ran toward it instead of away. "Stop! You don't understand." Walter grabbed her arm. "We're rescuing you." "I don't need rescuing." Lucy pulled away, angry now. "This is a school. These are my friends. You're the one scaring everyone." The sanctuary residents gathered, forming a protective circle around the children. Finn stood next to Lucy, trembling but brave. Anna moved to the front, her eyes blazing. "I was brought here 40 years ago," she said loudly. "I thought I was being sacrificed. Instead, I was saved. This place gave me knowledge, purpose, and family. You're not rescuing anyone. You're destroying something beautiful out of fear and ignorance." Walter raised his weapon, some kind of mining laser. "The Sovereign is controlling you, all of you." "The Sovereign saved me," a tall being from another species said, stepping forward. "My people sent me here to die. Instead, I learned to live." "And me," said another voice. "And me." One by one, sanctuary residents shared their stories. Children who were supposed to be sacrifices, now grown adults who had built lives here. Parents who sent their children expecting death, only to find salvation. The ground shook. The Sovereign emerged from the deeper tunnels, and its presence filled the chamber with power that made the air crackle. "Enough!" the dragon's voice thundered in everyone's minds. Walter pointed his weapon at the Sovereign. "Stay back, monster." "You come into my sanctuary with weapons," the Sovereign said, and anger colored its telepathic voice for the first time. "You threaten those I protect. You call me monster while acting like beasts yourselves." The Sovereign could have destroyed them easily. One breath, one sweep of its tail, and Walter's group would be gone. Everyone in the chamber knew it. The tension stretched like wire about to snap. Lucy broke free from the group of children and walked forward. She stood between Walter's weapon and the Sovereign, small and fragile and absolutely fearless. "Stop," she said, her voice carrying in the sudden silence. "Just stop." "Lucy, get out of the way," Walter said. "No." Lucy turned to face him, and there were tears on her face, but her voice was steady. "You're wrong. The monster isn't the dragon. The monster is fear. Fear that makes you hurt people without even asking if they need help. Fear that makes you destroy things you don't understand." She gestured around the chamber. "This is a school. These people are my teachers and my friends. You came here with weapons to save me from the safest place I've ever been." She wiped her eyes. "You're not heroes, you're bullies." Walter's weapon lowered slightly. "But the stories, the tributes, children disappearing." "Children being saved," Anna corrected. "Learning, growing, living full lives. Some of us went home eventually, some stayed, but none of us were hurt. None of us were sacrificed." She pointed at the Sovereign. "That being has shown more mercy in 800 years than most species show in their entire existence." The Sovereign spoke again, quieter now. "I could destroy you for this intrusion, for threatening my students, for bringing weapons into a place of peace." Its ancient eyes fixed on Walter. "But I have spent 800 years choosing mercy over violence. 800 years protecting children others sent to die. I will not change now." The dragon's gaze shifted to Lucy. "And this child has taught me something. She sees clearly what adults cannot. She understands that mercy is not weakness but the hardest form of strength. Lucy walked to the sovereign and put her small hand on its scales. "Don't hurt them. They're just scared." "I know," the sovereign said gently. Walter's weapon clattered to the ground. He sank to his knees, the weight of his mistake crushing him. "What have I done?" "You made an error," the sovereign said. "You can unmake it by learning the truth." Walter Cross and his volunteers spent 3 days in the sanctuary, and those days changed everything. Lucy gave them tour, introduced them to residents from different species, showed them the library and gardens. Anna shared her story in detail and others added their own. By the end, Walter was weeping openly. "I called it a monster," he said to the sovereign. "I almost destroyed something precious because I was too afraid to see the truth." "Fear is a powerful force," the sovereign replied, "but it can be overcome. You are proof of that." David and Rachel arrived on the 4th day for their scheduled visit. They found Walter helping tend the gardens while Lucy taught him about soil composition. The sight was so unexpected that David stopped in his tracks. "What happened here?" he asked Anna. "Truth happened," she said with a smile. "And your daughter happened. She has a gift for making people see clearly." Over the next week, the sovereign proposed a formal covenant with the human colony. The terms were simple: mutual respect, knowledge exchange, and environmental protection. Humans would help restore the damaged nesting grounds with guidance from sanctuary experts. In return, the colony gained full access to 800 years of accumulated wisdom. "There's more," the sovereign added during the negotiations. "This sanctuary is one of 12 across the galaxy. Each guards knowledge from civilizations that no longer exist. Together, they form a network preserving galactic heritage. I invite humanity to join us as guardians." Robert, who had become the colony's ambassador, looked stunned. "You want us to help protect ancient knowledge?" "I want you to understand its value," the sovereign corrected, "and to add your own knowledge to the collection. Humanity is young, but youth brings fresh perspectives. Your species sees problems differently, solves them in unexpected ways. That is valuable." Helen had been studying medical texts for months and made a breakthrough that morning. "I found a cure," she announced, her voice shaking, "for the wasting disease that killed my daughter. It's here in these texts from a species that went extinct 300 years ago. If I'd known this 5 years ago." Anna put an arm around her. "You know it now. How many children can you save moving forward?" The answer was hundreds, maybe thousands across different colonies. Rachel watched Lucy working with Finn on a xenobiology project. Her daughter was explaining genetic markers with the confidence of someone twice her age. "She's grown so much," Rachel whispered to David. "She has," David agreed. "The question is, do we let her keep growing here or do we take her home?" That evening, the sovereign called a meeting with David, Rachel, and Lucy. "The time has come for Lucy to choose," the dragon said. "She may return to the colony permanently, visit occasionally, or continue as a student here. The choice is hers alone." Lucy looked at her parents, then at Anna and Finn, then around the sanctuary that had become her second home. "Can I do something different?" "Explain," the sovereign prompted. "I want to keep learning here," Lucy said carefully. "But I want to go home 1 week every month. And I want other kids from the colony to come here too, to learn like I did. Not as tributes or sacrifices, but as students. A real school." The sovereign considered this. An exchange program. Human children learning here, sanctuary children visiting your colony, building bridges between communities. "Exactly," Lucy said, her eyes bright. Rachel looked at David. They had discussed this possibility, the idea that their daughter might choose a path they never imagined. It hurt, but there was pride mixed with the pain. "If that's what you want," Rachel said softly, "then we support you." Lucy hugged them both tightly. "I love you and I'll miss you, but this feels right, like I'm supposed to be here. First human student ambassador, David said, trying to smile. Your mother and I are so proud of you. 6 months after that decision, the colony of New Haven officially renamed itself to Haven's Bridge, acknowledging its role as a connection between human and sanctuary communities. The nesting grounds were fully restored, better than before. Native plants flourished, and endangered species returned to the area. The first student exchange began with 5 human children joining Lucy in the sanctuary. 3 sanctuary residents, including Finn, visited the colony. The initial awkwardness faded quickly as children do what adults often cannot. They made friends across species without fear or prejudice. Walter Cross led the restoration efforts personally, driven by a need to make amends. He worked alongside sanctuary experts, learning techniques humans had never imagined. I was so wrong, he told David one evening, about everything. But you learned, David replied. That's what matters. Helen's medical discoveries revolutionized colony healthcare. Diseases that once killed colonists became treatable. Her reports spread to other human colonies, and soon representatives came asking for access to the sanctuary's knowledge. The sovereign welcomed them all with one condition. They must understand that knowledge comes with responsibility. To learn from the past, you must promise to protect the future. A year after Lucy first walked into the cave, the sovereign asked her to take a walk through the gardens. They talked about everything and nothing, teacher and student, ancient being and young human. You taught me something I'd forgotten, the sovereign said. I spent 800 years showing mercy to children sent to die, but I never understood that mercy goes both ways. What do you mean? Lucy asked. You showed me mercy by seeing me as I am, not as the monster others believed me to be. You gave me the gift of being understood. The dragon's ancient eyes reflected starlight from the crystals above. For 800 years I saved others. You saved me. Lucy thought about this. I just drew you some pictures and asked questions. Sometimes that's all it takes, the sovereign said. To see someone clearly, to ask instead of assume, to choose understanding over fear. Years later, when Lucy was grown and leading diplomatic missions across the galaxy, she would remember those words. She would teach other humans about the day humanity learned to see past fear, about the dragon who chose mercy, and about a small girl who understood that the bravest thing you can do is see clearly when everyone else is blind. The sanctuary grew. More species joined the Guardian network. More children came to learn, not as tributes but as students. And in the center of it all, the sovereign watched over them, no longer alone, no longer misunderstood. The networks of sanctuaries shared knowledge freely now, connected by humans who carried information between worlds. Haven's Bridge became a hub of learning, where beings from across the galaxy came to study together. And every month, without fail, Lucy came home for a week. She would sit at the kitchen table with her parents, eating Rachel's cooking and telling stories about her adventures. She would visit her old friends, now grown like her, and remember the frightened little girl who once walked into a cave with nothing but drawings and hope. They offered a human child to a dragon, Anna wrote in the sanctuary's historical records. The dragon chose mercy. The child chose understanding. And together, they built a bridge between fear and hope that changed the galaxy forever. In the end, that was the real tribute. Not sacrifice, not submission, but the courage to see clearly, to choose mercy over violence, and to believe that even ancient misunderstandings can be healed by those brave enough to try. The sovereign had waited 800 years for that lesson, and a 7-year-old human child had delivered it with drawings, questions, and a heart too pure to believe in monsters.